Hmm. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody. Please accept my full obeisances. We will recite the Mangala Charan and then also the Guru Pranam Mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jayatam Shirato Pango Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohana Divya Vrindaranyakapadrumadah Srimat Ratnagara Simhasanosto Sriman Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Srimat Rasarasarambi Vamsivata Statastitaha Karshan Venu Sanair Gopir Gopinata Shrestuna तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति विघ्न विनाश नरसिंह इति नामिने मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयितं गुरुं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरये. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam sukhamukaram mritadravya samyutam Vivata Bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvivavakaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamalini Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajamre. So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam session. So we are going with chapter 7, the son of Drona punished. So previous session, 2 weeks ago, we did part 1, we began the session. So now we are continuing with part 2. So I'll just do a quick recap of what we covered last session so that we can follow the progress of the chapter 7. So in chapter 7, it began with the conclusion of the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you recall, the sages of Naimisaranya, they had asked Suta Goswami, what is the history behind Srimad Bhagavatam? Where was it spoken? Who spoke it? How did it come about? How did the meeting between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami come to be? Both are very different personalities. One is a great Maharaja king. Another is such a great renunciate that he doesn't even wear clothes and he just goes about. So how did such great personalities, their paths, how did it collide? And in what circumstances did the Srimad Bhagavatam come about? So they wanted to know. So these questions were raised in chapter 4, and chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. The answers to these questions were being discussed by Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami is reciting the history. We heard about a little bit briefly about Parikshit Maharaj, and briefly about Sukadev Goswami, and if you talk about Sukadev Goswami, we have to go to his father Vyasadeva, and we heard about how Vyasadeva was feeling dissatisfied, and Narada Muni came, and then Narada Muni instructed. Just a moment, I think I'll just mute you. Okay. So Narada Muni came, and then Vyasadeva was feeling dissatisfied, and Narada Muni was instructing Vyasadeva that you have done so much of welfare activities. You have written scripture for the welfare of humanity, but you have inadvertently led them astray because you have focused too much on karma kanda, on fruitive activities, and you have given the wrong impression to people that the purpose of religion is actually to satisfy their desires. So we worship God so that God will give whatever we want. So people have misunderstood the purpose of religion because of your focus on karma kanda. Though you have spoken here and there, you have given glimpses of the true purpose of religion, which is bhakti, but it's very rare and in between. So therefore, it did not really cover the entirety, and most people, particularly in Kali Yuga, people want to misunderstand, and so therefore they didn't really understand the purpose. So because of this, and you yourself, simply by talking so much about karma kanda, your heart is not satisfied, it becomes dry. So that is the reason you are feeling despondent, and that is the reason you are feeling not completed, that something is left incomplete. So then the real thing is you need to glorify Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. You need to glorify the wonderful transcendental name, form, glory, pastimes of the Lord. And you have to talk about devotional service, which links the jiva to the Supreme Lord. And by doing this, you will satisfy the entire, all the jivas in this universe. And this is the real purpose of this is the real solution for all the jivas in this material world. So that was discussed in detail. And we are not going, 2 weeks ago, we discussed about the completion. So just very quickly recap, the history of Srimad Bhagavatam was discussed. So in this chapter 7, we heard about Vyasadev's vision. After hearing from Narada Muni After Narada Muni told, he gave the instruction, then he even gave example. He gave example about himself, how he himself benefited, how he was, Dasi Putra, the son of a maid servant in his previous life, and how he benefited from the association of the pure devotees, the Bhakti Vedantas, and how he followed their instructions, and how he was completely protected from Maya, even in such a difficult situation like the death of his mother when he was 5 years old. He was not disturbed at all in his mind because he was fully insulated and protected by the instructions, the transcendental instructions of the Bhakti Vedantas, which is pure devotional service. So in this way, and how he lived his life, and then he perfected his life at the time of death, and at the time of death, he was transferred to a spiritual body. So all this we heard, and after that, Narada Muni further reinforced this principle that therefore, since I have benefited, and I know, and all of you can also benefit, and therefore recite, compose Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the crowning glory of all your work. They call it opus magnus or magnus opus, right? The magnus opus means it's the crowning glory of one's work, and that is the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadev's crowning achievement. So that Srimad Bhagavatam recite. So then we heard how Vyasadev immediately, he sat by the banks of the river Saraswati in Samya Pras. That's the place is still there, Samya Pras, somewhere near Badrika Ashram. And he sat there and he closed his eyes and he meditated. Immediately upon closing his eyes and meditating, the Supreme Lord appeared in the core of his heart. So he was able to see the Supreme, just like Narada Muni in his previously. Yeah? So like that, he by the blessings and the mercy of his Guru, he was able to also achieve the same attainment as Narada Muni. The moment he sat and meditated, the Lord appeared in his heart. And he had a vision of the Lord. So he describes the vision of Vyasa. How Vyasadev's vision, he saw Purusham Purnam, the complete, the absolute personality of Godhead in all his glory. He saw the Supreme Lord seated in the core of his heart. And he also, together with the Lord, he didn't see the Lord alone. He saw the Shakti of the Lord, the energies of the Lord together, serving him fully under his control. Apasrayam. Apasrayam means fully under the control of the Lord. The energies, the Shakti, the Mayas. So there are two Mayas, there is Yoga Maya and there is Maha Maya. So Yoga Maya is the spiritual energy of the Lord. It is the illusory potency of the spiritual part of the Lord. Whereas the shadow of this Yoga Maya is Mahamaya, which is what we call the material energy. Actually, both energies are spiritual because everything comes from the Lord. And since everything comes from the Lord, everything is spiritual. But still, the shadow of the energy of the Lord, though is spiritual, but because it's shadow, we call it material. And it has a purpose. The purpose of this shadow energy of the Lord is to bewilder the living entities who want to forget the Lord. These living entities who want to forget the Lord, they want to enjoy separately from the Lord. So that's the role of this material energy, Mahamaya. So first of all, she makes the living entities forget that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she makes us forget our relationship as the servant. Because if we want to enjoy, we cannot remember we are servant. As long as we remember we are servant, we cannot fully enjoy independently, right? We cannot independently try to become the Lord and Master, because that was our desire. And the Lord, he tells us, no, it's okay, why don't you? But then he doesn't force. So therefore, the Jiva desires and the Lord provides. So this is the facility, Maya. So this Mayam and all these Jivas, all of us actually, we are in this material world because we have chosen to forget the Lord, because we wanted to enjoy the energies of the Lord separately. And this Maya, she covers us. fully. And because she covers us, she makes us think that we are also matter. Actually, we are transcendental. We are divyam. We are spirit, part and parcel of the Lord. But because we are covered, sammoha, we are covered by Maya, in illusion, and Maya is material, therefore we identify with matter, thinking that we are also this body, we are also, I am this Sudarshan Das here, and I am sitting here in this house, in Shalam or wherever, and I'm so and so, born from this family, in this country. So we identify, and this identity is so strong, that is the false ego, which is keeping us in this identity. So Maya and false ego. Maya comes from Durga Devi, and false ego is coming from Lord Shiva. So Durga and Shiva, therefore, are our material world's father and mother in this material world. So therefore, we keep ourselves in this way. So that's the problem of the jivas. And what's the solution? The solution is described in this chapter 7. Sutta Goswami is telling the rishis of the Naimisaranya forest. So the problem of the jivas can very easily be solved, right? The solution is very simple. The solution is we must realign the real purpose. We must reawaken our mind to break the illusion. So we must understand, first of all, we are spirit soul. We are not matter. That's why the first instruction Bhagavad Gita Krishna gives to Arjuna is that you are the soul. That we have to understand, look, do not identify with matter. We are spirit. At least theoretically we understand. And then slowly, slowly we will realize it. So Bhakti Yogam Adoksaje. So what is that process which gives us that understanding and which gives us the realization that we are spirit soul? So that process is called yoga, and particularly it is called Bhakti Yogam Adoksaje. That devotional service to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adoksaja is one of the names of Krishna. It means he who is beyond everything, beyond matter, beyond materialism. So that is, and bhakti, not to any material personality, not to any devata, any demigod, because they are all material, but bhakti to that person who is beyond matter. Bhakti yogam adokshaje. So that is the solution. So if the living entity is fortunate to come in contact with this process, right, and simply by oral reception, by Sruyamanayam means simply it begins very simply, just by oral reception. You don't have to do all kinds of other things. No need to do great exercises or difficult austerities. It begins simply by oral reception, hearing. So what will they hear? So that's the reason Narada Muni told Vyasadeva, compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the solution. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, this Bhagavata Purana, this Maha Purana, this what do you call, what's the word? Amala Purana. Amala means spotless, transcendental Purana. This is the solution, the cream of the Vedas, the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. So this is the solution. Simply by hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, what will happen? Soka, Moha, and Bhaya will all become Upaha. So Soka means Sogam, right? Our misery, our sadness, all our Sogam, Soka, and our Moha, illusion. Remember, Mayam creates illusion. Moha, all this illusion of all kinds of thinkings. First, our Soka will become extinguished. Then our Moha also will become extinguished, our illusion. And together with that, our Bhaya. Bhaya means fear. So all that will become extinguished. So this is, if we want misery to be gone, if we want illusion to be gone, if we want fear, if we want to become Abhaya, Srila Prabhupada's name is Abhaya Charanaravinda. Abhaya means he who is fearless. So if we want to become fearless, we have to take shelter of Krishna, Charanaravinda. So like Charana means lotus feet of the Lord. So one who takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord becomes fearless. So becomes extinguished. So how is this done? By constantly, regularly, seriously, introspectively listening to Srimad Bhagavatam with devotion. So in this way, then all this will happen very quickly. And this Srimad Bhagavatam, after we hear the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, we also hear how Vyasadeva teaches this Srimad Bhagavatam to Sukadev Goswami. So after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam, he teaches it to Sukadev Goswami. Now, Sukadev Goswami, we know the history a little bit. We already discussed this in chapter 4. Yeah, I think, yeah, chapter 4. We heard how Sukadev Goswami was a Brahman realized soul. He was a Brahman realized soul, and then he, due to some curse, he took birth. It's all Leela, you know. So he took birth, and he took birth in the womb of Vyasadev's wife, and he didn't want to come out because he was afraid that he will be covered with Maya again. But he got the assurance from his father. He didn't want to believe. Then his father said, okay, Naman, you won't believe me, you listen to Krishna. So he brought Krishna to the house, and Krishna himself gave assurance to Sukadev Goswami in the womb that don't worry, you will be free from Maya. So then, therefore, he took birth. Immediately he grew up, and he was free from Maya, and he was Brahman realized. So immediately he left home. He wanted to leave and go. He understood that the father, mother, all these things is transitionary. So many lifetimes, you know, who is the real father, who is the real mother? So therefore, he left everything and he left. But Vyasadeva, out of compassion, he followed after his son. So he said, "Hey, come back, come back. You are Brahman realized, but you have not realized the full purport. Brahman realization is just the first level. You have to go further." So after going after him and chasing him down, then Sukadev Goswami came back and sat, and then he listened. He accepted Vyasadeva as his guru, and Vyasadeva spoke. You have already realized Brahman, but give me a chance. Let me speak Srimad Bhagavatam. If you like it, you go. If you don't like it, you don't like it, you go. You like it, you stay. So Sukadev Goswami, he sat and listened, and he was completely attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. So how is it possible that a Brahman realized soul who have theoretically so-called already achieved perfection and eternity, how is such a person possible for him to already, you know, he's already blissful. But how is it that he can be attracted even more to something like the Srimad Bhagavatam? How is it possible? So that's where we understand, you know, in Bhagavad Gita, we know, right? The supreme absolute truth is realized in 3 stages. The Brahman stage, which is the lowest stage. So Prabhupada calls it perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. So the perfection of Jiva is Brahman. We understand that we are eternal. We are spirit soul. We have realized it. But, and Brahman is all around. Everything is made of spirit matter. But to understand further, to know that the source of the Brahman, there is something called Parabrahman, which is the source of the Brahman. To realize that is even higher. So then and that source is locally situated within the heart. So that's Paramatma realization. But the Paramatma is just a local aspect. He doesn't do anything. But this reflection of this Paramatma is the Bhagavan. And that Bhagavan does so many activities. He does so many pastimes. He is full of activities. He is full of qualities. His form is enchanting. It is transcendental. So that is the highest. So, and Srimad Bhagavatam is describing that Bhagavan. So even a Brahman realized person is attracted to Bhagavan. So this is the proof that Bhagavan realization is the highest. Atmarama, attractive to even Atmarama. Atmarama means one who takes pleasure in his own self. That means Brahman realized, like Sukadev Goswami. So so what happens after that? So after Sukadev Goswami hears this, hear a bit more in this chapter 7. Later we will discuss. And after that, the rest of chapter 7 is dedicated to Krishna Leela. So Sukadev Goswami, Suta Goswami will now start to answer the other questions of the sages of Naimisaranya, because the sages also asked, please tell us more about the pastimes, more about the Leela of the Lord, which is all part of Bhagavatam, right? So tell us, he also asked, how did Parikshit Maharaj come about and all this, and tell us the Leelas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, Suta Goswami will begin to describe Krishna Leela. So he will describe those, that particular pastime which leads towards the birth of Parikshit, but at the same time, it is also pastimes of Krishna. So we will hear that today. So these were the what we covered previously and what we will cover today. So we stopped at verse 10. Now we will continue with verse 11. So Bhagavan Badarayanihi. So this is Badarayana. Badarayana is Vyasadev. Badarayana is Vyasadev. Badarayani is the son of Vyasadev. So son of Vyasadev is Sukadev Goswami, and he is also called Bhagavan, one who possesses opulence, right? So he is also transcendental. He is perfected. He's Brahman realized. He has achieved Brahman. So remember previously, Vyasadev was also called Bhagavan. Narada Muni was also called Bhagavan. And we also now have Sukadev Goswami also called Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is also referred to any personality of greatness. Later, we will also hear in later cantos how Lord Shiva is also described as Bhagavan. But there is only one Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam Bhagavan, that word Swayam Bhagavan is exclusively kept only for not even Vishnu, Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan. So we can understand that that is special. The original personality, the source of everything. So Bhagavan Badarayani, Sukadev Goswami, who is Vishnu Janapriyaha, who's Vishnu Janapriya means one who is very, very dear, Priya, Priyaha, very dear to the people of Vishnu. Vishnu Jana. Jana means the Janangal, the people. The people of Vishnu are who? The devotees. So Sukadev Goswami became very dear to the devotees. How did that happen? Sukadev Goswami was an impersonalist. He was a Brahman realized person. He wanted to leave. He wanted to leave Vyasadev's association and go away and live alone somewhere. But then he became Vishnu Jana Priyaha. He became very dear to the devotees. How did that happen? And his mind became absorbed in Harir Guna, in the transcendental attributes of Lord Hari. So this is what happened to Sukadev Goswami. How did it happen? So this verse will answer that. Because Sukadev Goswami regularly, Nityam regularly studied this great narration, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is what happens. So anyone who does this, who hears and studies it, guaranteed, Prabhupada says, right? One who studies the Srimad Bhagavatam, guaranteed Krishna Prema in this lifetime. And Prabhupada also said, one who reads Srimad Bhagavatam with faith, they will see Krishna in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam one day. So this is, and because Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, right? When Krishna left the world, the sages asked, who will we take shelter? So then we heard how Srimad Bhagavatam became the incarnation of Krishna, the literary incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga for all of us to take shelter on. So that is the effect of Srimad Bhagavatam. So because he became absorbed in Hari Guna, simply by regularly studying the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, so then because of that, he became very dear to the devotees of the Lord. So one who becomes absorbed in Krishna consciousness naturally becomes very dear to the pure devotees. So that's how a impersonalist Brahmavadi, like Sukadev Goswami before, he became a pure devotee of the Lord. So knowing that the child after his birth would not stay at home, Vyasadeva impressed upon him the synopsis of the Bhagavatam so that the child could be made attached to the transcendental activities of the Lord. So we are talking about, the pastime I already described, how Sukadev Goswami was going away. So, but I thought this purport was very interesting. We should read this carefully, right? Impressed upon him the synopsis of the Bhagavatam so that the child could be made attached to the transcendental activities of the Lord. How does one make children Krishna consciousness? How do we make a child Krishna conscious? So this is the secret. So, of course, there are other things like Garbhadana Samskara and all that, but that is all secondary. The most important is, all that is creating facility. Garbhadana Samskara is good. One who is, born in that way, born in a devotee family, all that is facility. Great Sukruti, yes. But until that child is given the opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, all those facilities become wasted if they are not going to give this opportunity to the child. So this is the secret. Therefore, if we want children to grow up Krishna conscious, then we have to inculcate Srimad Bhagavatam into their life. So we have to tell them, they have to hear stories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. They have to hear the philosophy. They have to understand step by step. So that's why nowadays is very nice. ISKCON is having a program called Bala Bhagavatam. This Bala Bhagavatam is for children. Bhagavatam stories they actually go quite deep. They tell the pastimes, they tell the philosophy, they help them memorize the verses. So it's a nice training. And in this way, they grow up with Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if the children don't hear about Krishna, then what is the value of being born in a devotee family? What is the value of being born in ISKCON, right? If they don't hear. So the facility is there, but one has to take advantage. As they say, we can bring the horse to the water, but we cannot force the horse to drink. So, but we can guide the horse to drink if the horse trusts us. So in the same way, the child can be brought up in that way. So it's very nice. A lot of beautiful meaning is there in Prabhupada's purport. But by the association of pure devotees like Vyasadeva, even the liberated soul became attracted to the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So this is the power of association. Real association means it must translate into opportunities for hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord. This is real association. Otherwise, it is simply, basically, it's not really real association. It has to translate into this. It has to come out to opportunities. Like, devotees should be able to have home programs, take turns hosting devotees. And when they host devotees, it's not just to, chat, gossip or whatever. It is a program where we sit and glorify the Lord. We hear about the Lord. We deepen our understanding about the Lord. This is what real association of pure devotees means. And to serve that pure devotee, that is also what it means. So Prabhupada stresses this. So Sutta Goswami continues. Sutta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Saunaka. He's answering Saunaka Rishi. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of Krishna Katha Udayam. So what happens is the glory of the history of Srimad Bhagavatam is now completed. Now he's now going to focus on answering the other questions. So he's going to talk about the pastimes of the Lord. But he begins by Krishna Katha Udayam. That means the pastimes of Krishna which give rise to the transcendental narration of Krishna. So very interesting. Krishna Katha Udayam. He puts it that way. That means those pastimes which are in connection with Krishna indirectly, not yet directly Krishna Katha. That means not Rasa Leela, not directly Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan with the gopis, not yet. It has to begin with Krishna Katha Udayam, those narration which is in connection with Krishna, which gives rise to Krishna Katha. So it has to come that way, because we are not qualified to directly hear pure Krishna, directly hear the direct pastimes of the Lord, because our mind has to be conditioned first. Otherwise, with our material conditioning, it becomes it cannot appreciate. Number one, it cannot appreciate properly, because if we don't get purified, those who are purified, the moment they hear, we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita, isn't it? How the moment when Nityananda Prabhu came, the first time they met Nityananda, they thought Nityananda Prabhu was a avadut. They thought that he's a madman. How can he be a devotee? But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood the thinking of the other people. So he told one of the associates to recite a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So when he recited that verse, Nityananda Prabhu immediately showed transcendental symptoms. So this is what happens. And then everybody knew, oh, Nityananda Prabhu was a great personality. So this is what will happen if we are ready to hear that kind of pastimes, the pastimes of the gopis and all that. It will bring us transcendental symptoms. But if the transcendental symptoms are not yet appearing, that means we are still not ready. And therefore, we need to hear the other connection pastimes, which are in connection with the Supreme Lord. So first of all, he will talk about Krishna Katha Udayam. That means he will give he will start telling certain pastimes which will bring about, which will link the pastimes of the Lord, and will bring about eventually the topics of Raja Rishir Parikshit, because that's one of the questions raised. So they wanted to know about Parikshit Maharaj, the listener of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will hear later on the Janma, the birth, the Karma, the activities, and the Vilapanam, the deliverance of Parikshit Maharaj, how he was delivered. So, and the third thing that Sutta Goswami will narrate is the topics of the renunciation of the worldly order of the Pandu Putranam. Pandu Putranam means the sons of Pandu. These are the Pandavas. So he will talk about the renunciation of the Pandavas later. So all this is going towards a direction, because it's moving towards the point where Srimad Bhagavatam will be spoken. The meeting between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami will occur following this storyline. So therefore, he's setting up this storyline. So therefore, these are called Krishna Katha Udayam. But let's see, Prabhupada puts a very important point here. So Prabhupada says, the devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Indeed, the word Bhagavat, if you see Sanskrit dictionary, it refers to several meanings. Bhagavat means, Bhagavad Gita means song of God, right? So Bhagavat means God. But Bhagavat also means devotees of God. So, and Bhagavat also means Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. So these three things are interlinked and cannot be separated. The scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and the devotees, Bhagavat, and the Supreme Lord, Bhagavat, all three are interlinked and cannot be separated, and they mean the same thing. So therefore, very important point here, therefore talks about them, the devotees of the Lord, are all Krishna Katha, or the topics of the Lord. So we shouldn't differentiate. Oh, we are talking about Pandavas, we're talking about Prahlad Maharaj, or we're talking about Vyasadev or Narada. Oh, I don't want to hear all this. I only want to hear about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But one who thinks like that is in ignorance, avidya. And he's creating, and if he thinks that way, he is offensive, because that is not the right understanding. The devotees of the Lord is also Krishna Katha, because the devotees are always thinking of the Lord. They are never separated from the Lord. So to hear the stories, the pastimes of the devotees of the Lord, to hear Prabhupada's Leelamrita, to hear the pastimes of Guru, all this is also Krishna Katha. And so this is the point Prabhupada makes over here. So therefore, no one should go into the matters of the confidential pastimes of the Lord without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada makes this point very importantly. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so therefore, we have concluded the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, and now the scene is being set up for the birth of Parikshit. So now we are going to hear. So this is just a summary. We heard about Vyasadev's vision, how he saw the Supreme Lord, and he also saw energy of the Lord, and he saw how the jivas are being put in illusion, and he also saw the solution. He knew the solution, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. And he teaches the Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasadev, to Sukadev Goswami. And we heard how Sukadev Goswami became Vishnu Jana Priya simply by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, now moving on to the scenes. So Suta Goswami now flashes back. He goes and recreates the scene. And this is the scene right at the end of Mahabharata. When the receptive warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this is at the end of the Mahabharata war, after 18 days of battle, when both sides are killed. And the dead warriors obtained Viragatim. So we know, right, in Bhagavad Gita, from the very first verse, Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, so the purport was, this is Dharma Kshetre. Those who die in Kurukshetra will, in battle, they will attain the heavenly planets. And especially those who die looking at Krishna, they will attain the spiritual world. So therefore, Viragatim, the abode of the Vira, of the heroes, which is heavenly planets. So what happened? After the end of the battle, when all the dead warriors obtained Viragatim, their deserved destinations. And after that, what happened? When Dhritarashtra Putre means the son of Dhritarashtra. He is referring to Duryodhana. When Duryodhana fell down, lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the Gada of Vrikodara, the performer of Herculean tasks. You remember Srimad Bhagavad Gita? Each of them blew their conch shells. Vrikodara's conch shell. So that's Bhima, the performer of Herculean tasks. So he used his Gada, his mace. When Draupadi was disrobed, was being attempted to be disrobed, Duryodhana was very insulting. He looked at Draupadi and he wanted to. Already the Pandavas were having arrows thrown into their hearts to see Draupadi's disrobing spectacle. He wanted to twist that knife deeper into their hearts. So in front of everybody, he looked at Draupadi and he said, "Look at your husbands. They are all useless. They can't even protect you. They have lost themselves and they cannot give any protection to you. You have 5 husbands. What's the point? So you give up all of them and come accept me. Let me give you protection." And then he pulled his clothes up, his pants or whatever they were wearing at that time, his dhoti. Okay, he pulled his dhoti up, revealing his thighs, and he slapped his thighs and said, come sit on my thighs, be my wife. So he was treating her in a very terrible manner, very cheaply, hoping that this, with the idea that this will pierce the hearts of Draupadi and also the Pandavas. This is the type of person he was. At that time, Bhima made a vow. He said that same ties which he slapped and invited Draupadi to sit right, I promise that I will break those ties. So Duryodhana at the end of battle, he was still there. He didn't die yet. And he ran away because Karna dead, Bhima, all his people are dead. And after Karna died, he didn't know what to do. Everybody was dead already. He was running away. So he ran away completely defeated, and he went and hid inside a river, inside a lake, in a lake. And he had a certain mystic power, so he was able to sit inside the lake without breathing. And he was hiding. And the Pandavas were all searching because Bhima had to, he made a vow. So Kshatriyas, if they don't fulfill their vow, then they are dishonored. And for the Pandavas, dishonor means death. So they were looking for Duryodhana to satisfy the vow of Bhima. And when finally they found, Krishna indicated that, look over there, there's some bubbles coming out. So that's the lake where Duryodhana is hiding. So they went there, and then they called to Bhima, they called to Duryodhana, come out. So then Duryodhana came out, and then it's a long story also. I'll just shorten it. The point is they had a fight. So Bhima and Duryodhana, they had a hand-to-hand combat using the mace, the gada. And eventually Duryodhana was defeated. Bhima broke his thighs. So we won't go into the details of that pastime at this point. But anyway, he broke the thighs of Duryodhana, and Duryodhana was dying. He laid down and he was losing his lifeblood. So this is the scene which is being described. This is the fight that took place, right? Watched by the Pandavas. So this is the scene which is being described by Sutta Goswami. So after the Mahabharata war, when all of them, when the 18 days battle was completed, after Duryodhana was defeated in battle and he lay dying in the battlefield, he's not dead yet. He lay dying in the battlefield near the lake. Drauni means the son of Drona. So Drauni, the son of Drona, is Ashwatthama. Drauni, what happened? Due to anger, he went secretly at night into the camp of the Pandavas. He wanted to take revenge. He was very upset. He was very, very upset that his father was killed. He felt his father was killed unfairly. His head was cut off while he was meditating. So he felt that, how can these Kshatriyas, look what the Kshatriyas have done to the Brahmanas. I will take my revenge. And because they did such an unfair thing, see what I am going to do. So therefore, I also will enter into the camp of the Pandavas when the war was over, secretly some more, without telling. It's very wrong for a Kshatriya to do like that, to sneak in secretly like an assassin and to cause havoc. So anyway, he did it. He secretly sneaked into the camp of the Pandavas at night when everybody was sleeping without their weapons, defenseless. He attacked and killed the rest of the Pandava armies. A lot of them died. And not being satisfied, he went to the tent and he thought he saw the sleeping bodies of the Pandavas. And quietly, secretly, without even waking them up, without even uttering a challenge, while they were sleeping, he cut off their heads. All 5 of them cut off their heads, and he took their heads with them in the dark, and he ran away. And so Drauni beheaded these people, but actually he didn't behead the Pandavas. It was not the Pandavas' head who he beheaded. It was the sons of the Pandavas. Each one of the Pandavas, they had a son with Draupadi. So therefore the 5, they are called the Upa Pandavas. So or the sons of Draupadi. Now Draupadi's another name, Draupadi, she's dark complexion. Her complexion is dark, and she's very, very close to Krishna. And and because her complexion is dark, very beautiful also, and she looks close to Krishna, she is known as Krishna. A with the A is long. right? Krishna, the A is long. So that's another name of Draupadi. So Krishna Sutanam, that means the sons of Krishna, which is Draupadi. So actually, Drona, the Ashwatthama, he beheaded the sons of Draupadi, the Pandava's sons. But he didn't know that. He brought the heads, but later he discovered they were the heads of the sons, but he still didn't care. So such was the degradation of this Ashwatthama. This is what happens when they start, when we start doing one forbidden thing, the second forbidden thing becomes little easier. And the third forbidden thing becomes most easy. And after that, forbidden things becomes nothing. It becomes second nature. So that's why one should never attempt to even do one forbidden thing also. So, you know, for example, when someone accidentally steals something, then later he will realize, hey, it was quite easy to steal and was quite exciting also. So let me try again. So then they will do second time. Then they will become easier. Then they feel, oh, it's nice, so easy. Then they will do further and further. Then one day they will get caught. Then it's too late. So same thing. All forbidden activities is like that. So the wise person will not even try. They will completely stay away, knowing from scripture, knowing from higher understanding that one should stay away. It's like, you know, smoking or drinking. Oh, let me try smoking and just see. No. So that's the foolish person. So anyway, Drauni, the Ashwatthama, he did this. He beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Pandu and delivered the heads as a prize to his master, Duryodhana. Now, Duryodhana was dying, and thinking that he would be pleased, thinking that Duryodhana will be pleased, Ashwatthama went with the 5 heads of the sons of Pandu. He didn't know, actually he didn't know yet at that time that it was the sons of Pandu. He thought it was the Pandavas. So he went very, very happily. Actually, at that time, when Ashwatthama killed the people in the Pandavas camp, there were, you know, in the beginning of Mahabharata, 18 Akshawinis. These were the number of battalions which assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. 18 Akshawinis, millions and millions of warriors. One Akshawini is, I can't remember now. Huh? Yeah, there was a few million elephants, few 100,000 horses, and like that. So all this makes up one Akshawini. But there were 18 Akshawinis, and all of them were destroyed. And the only survivors, there were few survivors. Of course, the Pandavas. There were only the Pandavas. Of course, Krishna, Pandavas, so 6, and then Duryodhana, 7, and then another 3 more: Kripacharya, Ashwatthama, and Kritavarma. So Kripacharya is the one of the gurus of the Kauravas, the martial art guru. There were 2 gurus, Drona and Kripacharya. Drona is more powerful. He knows the mantras to invoke celestial weapons. Whereas Kripacharya, he knew the art of the normal weapons. So anyway, Kripacharya managed to survive. Ashwatthama, the son of Drona, also managed to survive. Both of them are Brahmins. And also Kritavarma, the commander of the army of the Yadavas. You know, Duryodhana managed to get the army of Krishna, the Yadavas, to fight for him. And the entire army was destroyed, the Narayanis. All the Narayanis were destroyed, but the commander of the Narayani is Kritavarma, one of the Yadavas. You know, the Yadavas not easy to kill. Krishna's own family member. So the time hasn't come for them to die yet. So Kritavarma is still alive. So, but the 3 of them together, they went and did this atrocity in the Pandavas camp, and later they came and visited Duryodhana. But Duryodhana, when Duryodhana saw, he saw these were the heads of not the Pandavas, the sons of Pandavas, and he became disgusted. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased in the least. He was not happy at all. Because Duryodhana, still, he didn't want to do anything to that extent, because this is killing the entire dynasty. So though Duryodhana was bad and all, he wasn't stooping to a level which is forbidden and completely degraded. So when he saw that in his name, Ashwatthama did such a very terrible act, he completely became despondent. Even he felt like, oh, what kind of a life is this? My entire life was a failure, and now you have done such an act. You have not given me any peace at all. And in this way, he died in such a miserable situation. So this is what happened. Anyway, after all this happened, back in the Pandavas camp, you can imagine the chaos in the Pandavas camp. So none other than Draupadi herself. Draupadi, the mother of the 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing of the Goram means the terrible, the very ghastly massacre of her sons, can you imagine? You wake up and then you get a shock. Somebody tells you your sons have been beheaded. Their heads are not there. Their heads are not even there to bury them properly. So can you imagine her feelings? So she began to cry in distress. Draupadi, who had to undergo so much of distress in her life, she began to cry in distress with eyes full of tears. Now it's important we understand the depth of the feeling of Draupadi in this situation, because later on, in a few more verses time, we're going to see her saintliness, her capability of saintliness, her great quality. So you can just try to imagine ourselves in this position, how terrible we would be feeling. So then, to appease her, trying to pacify her in her great loss, Kirita Mali is another name of Arjuna. It means one whose helmet is ornamented with a diadem, with a jewel. So it's one of the names. There's a pastime behind that. We won't talk about that now. So anyway, Arjuna tried to pacify Draupadi and spoke to her thus. So this is what Arjuna spoke to her. O gentle lady, when I present you with the head of that Brahma Bandhu, so he's referring to Ashwatthama as Brahma Bandhu. Brahma Bandhu means a friend of a Brahmana, or a relative of Brahmana. That means he's no longer referring to Ashwatthama as a Brahmin, because Ashwatthama is Brahmin. He's born from Dronacharya. But his activity was such, he acted like a butcher, completely disregarding scriptural injunctions in such a low down way. Even his master Duryodhana rejected him. So therefore, he is known as Brahma Bandhu, a degraded Brahmana. So that's the thing nowadays also. A lot of people call themselves Brahmanas, but they don't follow Brahminical injunctions. So therefore, they are to be known as Brahma Bandhu, not real Brahmana. Brahmana means defined by quality and activity, right? Karma and guna. Guna is activity and karma. Guna is quality and karma is activity. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Guna karma vibhagasaha. In this way, we can identify the Brahmana. So anyway, I will present you with the head, because he had cut off the head of the children. Arjuna says, I will cut off the head of that Brahma Bandhu, Ashwatthama, after beheading him with arrows from my Gandiva bow. And I shall then wipe the tears from your eyes and pacify you. Then, after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head. So, such terrible words were uttered by Arjuna. Can you imagine their feeling? They are Kshatriyas. These are Kshatriyas. For them, blood, all these things is second nature. They don't faint when they see blood. So it's and Draupadi, is also Kshatriya born. In fact, she was born from the fire for the express purpose of killing, destroying the Kauravas, destroying the Kshatriyas. But anyway, still, they are saintly people, but they are still Kshatriyas in nature. So therefore, they were speaking in this way out of extreme grief and fear. Then, after burning your son's bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head. So in this way, you can be pacified. So Prabhupada, he's saying, because the so-called Brahmana acted like a butcher, he was taken as such. And there was no question of sin in killing such a Brahmana's son, who proved to be a villain of the lowest regard. So actually, the greatest sin is Brahma Hatya, right? We say, when we go around Tulasi, Brahma Hatya Dikanicha, going around Tulasi, even the greatest sin of Brahma Hatya, which is killing a Brahmana, can be removed. So the greatest sin is Brahma Hatya, but that sin will not touch the Pandavas if they were to kill Ashwatthama, because Ashwatthama was not behaving like a Brahmana. So indeed, Prabhupada says there are 6 people, 6 aggressors who one can kill without sin. The first one is, we heard this in Bhagavad Gita also. Prabhupada will give the purport if you remember. The first one is one who sets fire to one's house. So such a person, you can kill that person without acquiring sin. A person who administers poison, that person also you can kill without incurring sin. So, the Kauravas did all of these 6 aggressions. They set fire to the house, they burned, the house of lac, they set fire, they gave poison to the Pandavas, they gave poison to Bhima, right? And the third one is one who plunders one's wealth. So that also they did. They stole the kingdom by deceit. And then one who usurps agricultural fields or takes away their land or takes away their home. So that is what the Kauravas did. The rightful kingdom of the Pandavas were removed not once but twice. And they chased them out of their home into the forest. They became landless and homeless. So such people deserve to be killed. And the fifth one is one who entices one's wife. So that is, of course, that also they did. The Draupadi is disrobing. So that such a person also deserves to be killed. So, and the 6th one is one who attacks with weapons suddenly, without warning, or from the back, without giving, from the back or at night or in the sleep. So this kind of people are all aggressors who deserve to be killed immediately. Even if there are Brahmanas, if they act in such a way, they are to be killed, according to Dharma Shastra. So then Sutta Goswami continues. Kapi Dwaja means Arjuna. So another name for Arjuna. Kapi means monkey. Dwaja means the flag, one who carries the standard or the flag. So we know Arjuna's chariot bears the symbol of Hanuman, the monkey. So therefore, another name for Arjuna is Kapi Dwaja. So Kapi Dwaja, guided by Achyuta. So here we are again invoking the auspicious signs of victory. In Bhagavad Gita also, if you remember chapter 1, the signs of victory were invoked, right? The Kapi Dwaja was invoked also. The flag of Hanuman, how Madhava was sitting in the chariot with Arjuna. So again here, Achyuta is sitting. So Kapi Dwaja, guided by Achyuta. Achyuta means infallible, cannot go wrong, cannot fall down, cannot be defeated, invincible. That's the name of Achyuta. So Arjuna, Kapi Dwaja, sign of victory, guided by Achyuta, another sign of victory, who is being guided as a friend, Mitra. This Achyuta has become the friend of this person, Arjuna. So can you imagine the fortune? And he's not only the friend, but he is also the Sutta, the chariot driver. So Arjuna, guided by Krishna in this way, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. So in other words, Krishna was guiding Arjuna in the heart, in Paramatma, for him to speak these words. Of course, Krishna is the ultimate orchestrator of the entire Mahabharata. So the next pastime is still to be completed. So therefore, this is being guided by Paramatma. Arjuna is speaking in this way. So then they sat together. Again, Arjuna sat on the chariot, guided by Parthasarathi, the charioteer Krishna himself. So Arjuna, then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons. The word Ugra Dhanva is used. Furious weapons, extremely powerful weapons. And getting into his Ratha, his chariot, he set out to follow Guru Putram, the son of his Guru. So here's another dimension. He's not only just a Brahmana who's fallen, Ashwatthama, he was also the son of his Guru, Drona's son, Ashwatthama. So there are a lot of sentimental ties attaching it to Arjuna. But still, because of such heinous activity, right, it is not sinful to kill such a person. And then we hear the description, what's Ashwatthama doing? Now here, Ashwatthama already, Duryodhana has already died, and Ashwatthama now is on the run. He knew that the Pandavas are still alive. He thought he killed them, but he didn't. And he knew now, because at that time he had the power of Lord Shiva to protect him. But now the boon was already satisfied. The power of Lord Shiva is already faded. And now he knows he's no match for Arjuna. So he's running. He's already on the run. Ashwatthama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, Parthasarathi leading the chariot, what did he do? Kumaraha, the word Kumaraha is used. Kumaraha means the killer of children, infanticide. He who killed children, after seeing Arjuna and Krishna coming, he fled, he ran away, he turned, he fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. So this is a pastime referring to, it's mentioned in one of the Puranas, how, there is always some kind of pastime going on like this. So there was once a fight between Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. There were several fights, but this is one of them. And Lord Brahma, he cannot defeat Lord Shiva. So when he angered Lord Shiva at one point, by one activity he did, he angered Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva immediately took his trident and came after him, his eyes blazing with fire. And Brahma, looking at it, he knew, oh, this is finished. And then he turned and ran away. So just like that, in the same way, Ashwatthama ran, panic-stricken. When Ashwatthama saw that his horses were tired, so the word used here is Dvijat Maja. Dvijat Maja means son of a Brahmana. So his status of a Brahmana was already gone. Even Sutta Goswami didn't recognize him as Brahmana. So therefore, he calls him only as son of Brahmana. Now, son of Brahmana doesn't mean Brahmana. Son of Brahmana will have all facilities to be a Brahmana. But if he doesn't act like a Brahmana, then he is not a Brahmana. So in that way, just same thing, son of devotee. Children of devotee also, all facilities given, just like Krishna's son. Bauma Sura, Bauma was born from Krishna and Bhuma Devi. Yeah, Krishna's son, but he became Bauma Sura because he came into bad association. All the facilities were wasted. So that can happen. So here we have to understand, birth is not a qualification. Birth is a great facility and a great benediction and a blessing, but it doesn't guarantee. So that is important. Simply by birth, one cannot say that one is a Brahmana or a whatever. So, therefore, when Dwijatmaja saw that his horses were tired, he considered that just to save himself, there was no alternative for protection outside of his using. He became panic-stricken. He became desperate. Oh, what's going to happen? So he knew nothing will defend him from Arjuna, who killed Bhishma. I mean, by Arjuna, Bhishma became killed. Drona was killed. Karna also was killed. So Ashwatthama had his father, Dronacharya, was killed. So he had no hope. And Krishna, the infallible one, was leading the chariot. So out of desperate, his mind completely chattering away in fear, what he did the one thing which he had left. He pulled the Brahma Sira. What he did? He used the Brahma Shira, the ultimate weapon or nuclear weapon, Prabhupada calls it. So that's the Brahmastra, right? So the Brahma Astra, here is also known as Brahma Shira. It's the ultimate weapon of all weapons. And this ultimate weapon is given the benediction of the Lord himself. The Lord himself gave this benediction that this weapon is the ultimate weapon. And this weapon can destroy everything. It can destroy one thing. It can destroy everything also. The entire universe it can destroy. That is the power of the Brahma Sirsha or the Brahmastra, if the person wanted it that way. But usually they will control the Brahmastra. When they send the Brahmastra somewhere, they will control it such that only the person is killed, everything else is left without being killed. They can control it and fine-tune it to such an extent through mantra. So they can release the Brahmastra that way. But if the person wants to also, he can also destroy an entire planet. He can also destroy the entire universe if they wanted to, including themselves. So therefore, the knowledge of this Brahmastra is not simply given to anyone. It is given to only worthy people. So Dronacharya, the father of Ashwatthama, he was very careful to give the knowledge of the Brahmastra only to worthy people. So few people only knew it. Of course, Bhishma Dev knew Brahmastra. And Dronacharya knew the secret. He taught it to Arjuna. Arjuna knows the secret of Brahmastra. But at the same time, there's a story. He also taught it to his son, Drona, his son, Ashwatthama. I won't tell, there's a pastime, a small pastime. He felt inclined to also teach his son to protect himself. He gave the Brahmastra. He knew he shouldn't. His son wasn't qualified yet, but he just gave it anyway. And it was true that his son wasn't qualified because he didn't know how to retract and how to control the Brahmastra. He only knew how to release it only. So Ashwatthama, he chanted the mantra of the Brahmastra. Since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity, so purified himself with water, concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns, the mantras, for throwing the nuclear weapon, the Brahmastra. Prabhupada translates it like that, nuclear weapon. So Prabhupada says, the subtle forms of material activities are finer than grosser methods of material manipulation. So what he's saying is that in the scientists now, they have to go and manufacture all kinds of things, and then they have these nuclear weapons. But in the previous age, in Dwapara Yuga and previous ages, simply by mantra, you don't need industry. Simply by mantra and purification, one can invoke such weapons. So this was there at the time. So since his life was in danger and he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons, so he didn't know. So that was a big thing. So here again, Ashwatthama is showing that he doesn't deserve to be called a Brahmana. So he did not act responsibly. He simply released his weapon. Why did he release the weapon? Because simply he thought his life was in danger. So simply to save his own miserable life, and out of panic, he released a weapon which would destroy the universe, because he didn't know how to control or retract the weapon. So such was the mentality and the thinking of this Ashwatthama. So obviously he is not behaving as a Brahmana at all. So release the Brahmastra, shum, fiery destruction. So this verse comes, Tata pradushkritam tejaha prachandam sarvato disham pranapadam abhipreksha vishnum jishnur uvachaha. Therefore, thereupon, a glaring light spread in all directions. You can just imagine, we know if somebody, if let's say Russia or Ukraine or not Ukraine, Russia or US, we hear the news tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. they will press the button to release nuclear weapons. If we know this news, how will we feel? Even though it's so far away, you can imagine how our feelings will be. So this is the situation. The weapon, not just to simple nuclear weapon, this is to destroy the universe. The weapon is released. Thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions. Suddenly, glaring light in all directions. It was so fierce, right? Sarvata disham, all directions. Prana apadam, it was threatening all life, not just Arjuna, all life it was threatening. And that Arjuna thought his own life will be in danger despite his great prowess. He didn't know what is this, because he never saw a situation of Brahmastra uncontrolled. So he didn't recognize what was happening. Because every other opponent, he knew how to control the Brahmastra. He never released the full power to this extent, wantonly destroying everything. So he didn't understand what it was. So fearing his life, Arjuna, you just see the difference between Arjuna and Ashwatthama. When Ashwatthama was scared of his life, look what he did. He released something which will destroy everything else together with him. Whereas when Arjuna feared for his life, look what he did. He immediately began to offer prayers to Krishna. This is the difference between Shura and Asura. So Arjuna Uvacha, very beautiful prayer he gives. This is the first prayer given to Lord Krishna directly in this Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Krishna Mahabahu Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dayamananam Apavargosi Samsritehe. So the prayer, Krishna Krishna Mahabahu, Krishna Krishna Mahabahu, O Krishna Krishna, O mighty armed Mahabahu, great mighty armed Krishna Krishna, Bhaktanam Abhayankara, O you who can destroy all fear of your devotee, Abhaya, who can make your devotee fearless, one who has surrendered to you, you can make him fearless. Tvam eko dayamananam apavargosi samsrite. Only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find path of liberation in you only. So this is the prayer of Arjuna. So it's a very nice prayer. I thought, His Grace Uttama Chaitanya Prabhu, our previous temple president, I remember when we attended Srimad Bhagavatam classes with him, he told us we should memorize this prayer and we should chant it whenever we pray to the Lord. So this is one of the ways we can glorify the Lord, and it's also a prayer for the Lord's mercy on us. So Krishna Krishna Mahabahu Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dayamananam Apavargosi Samsrite. So we can put it in whichever raga we like and we can sing it along. So this is the first prayer in the Srimad Bhagavatam. directly offered to Krishna. So we can see here Arjuna is praying for ultimate shelter. He's praying from ultimate shelter to become fearless and to be and also how the Supreme Lord can save one from the material miseries and award liberation. So Prabhupada gives his purport here. Material existence is something like a blazing fire in the forest, just like this Brahmastra, right? Which can be extinguished by the mercy of the Lord, Sri Krishna. And the spiritual master is that mercy representative of the Lord. So we cannot say, Krishna, 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 you must appear in front of me, otherwise I don't accept. No, we are not that level. So Krishna sends his mercy through his representative. And what is that representative? The spiritual master. By his words, it can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and can inject transcendental knowledge, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. So that is the way. So that's why we should hear from the Guru, and that knowledge will come and it will penetrate into the heart and it will destroy Soka, Moha, and Bhaya, right? And then Sutta Goswami continues the narration. Arjuna continues his prayer. Tvam adya purusha sakshat ishvara prakarte paraha mayam yudasya chichaktya kaivalye stishta atmani. You have cast away the Tvam adya. First he says Tvam adya, you are adya, you are the original Adi. The word Adya comes from Adi. You are the original Adi Purusha. You know, Brahma also prays like this, right? Govindam Adi Purusham. So here he's saying, you are Adi Purusha. Tvam Adya Purusha Sakshad. Directly, original personality of Godhead, the source of everything. Ishvara Prakrite Paraha. You are the supreme controller of Prakriti, material nature. Para means supreme, as well as the transcendental nature. That means you control not only material energy, you also control spiritual energy, and you are the supreme controller. So it can be understood in these ways. And then he says, Mayam Yudasya, you have cast away the effects of the material energy, Maya, by your Chit Shakti, by your own Chit Shakti. By your dint of your spiritual potency, your Chit Shakti completely negates the effect of Maya. Kaivalya Stita Atmani. So therefore, it defeats material energy by the dint of your spiritual potency, and you are always situated in eternal bliss. Kaivalya, purely in Stita, situated in Atmani, in the bliss of eternal transcendental knowledge. So, second prayer of Arjuna. The first prayer was requesting ultimate shelter. And the second prayer, he glorifies Krishna, saying that you are transcendental. You are original personality. You are the supreme controller of all energies. And you are always situated in Chit Shakti, bliss, Divyam. You are transcendental. And then he continues the prayer. Sa eva jiva lokasya maya mohita chetasaha vidatsevsvena viryena shreyo dharmadi lakshanam. And yet, although divyam, although you are transcendental, you are beyond matter, you are adoksaja, beyond matter, beyond everything, still you execute the four principles of liberation. You basically is talking about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You show, you execute, you come to this material world and you show by example the four pillars, right? The four activities, how to perform dharma, how to execute artha, how to gain wealth, how to satisfy one's desires, and how to attain liberation. All these things you have just given to the living entities in this material world. Even though you're transcendental, you have nothing to do with all these things, but still you came and gave all these things to us. Why? For the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Shreya, right? Shreyo means ultimate good. Ultimate good of the conditioned souls who are captivated by illusory energy. So you come just to help us, those of us who are in this illusory energy. So this prayer is an appeal to the mercy quality, Karunika. The Supreme Lord is all merciful. So it's an appeal to the merciful nature of the Lord. So very beautiful prayers like this. And one more prayer which he offers. Tatayam chavataraste bhuvo bhara jihirsaya shwanam chananya bhavanam anudhyanaya chasakrit. So the translation is, thus, though you are divyam, you come and establish these four principles of dharma, artha, kama, moksha and all that. You still descend as incarnation, not satisfied, not enough. You still come as incarnations in this material world, as avatars, like how we heard in chapter 3, to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends. Swanam, the word Swanam was used, your friends. So who are the friends of Krishna in this material world? So further he continues, Swanam Chananya Bhavanam, especially those who are your exclusive devotees. So friends of Krishna, those who are, favorable towards the Lord, but especially to the devotees, to those who have taken devotional path seriously, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. So you come just to save all the people in this world, particularly those who are favorable towards you, and even more particularly your pure devotees. So it seems from this verse that the Lord is partial. He is partial to his devotees. He is equal to everybody. He gives equal opportunity to everyone. But yet his own devotees, he has special attachment. He gives special mercy for them. So that's why it pays to be the devotee of the Lord. So this is the last, we will end, we're going to end soon. So then he continues, oh Deva Deva, how is it that this dangerous Teja is spreading all around? So after giving these prayers, after first of all glorifying the Lord, appealing to his mercy, taking shelter of the Lord, and in this way, finally he asks the question, oh God of gods, how is it that this dangerous Teja, this terrible glaring effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. So Prabhupada gives the purport. Therefore, so we will stop here. So this is the part where Arjuna offers his prayers, and after this Krishna will respond. He will reply to Arjuna. So this is just like in Bhagavad Gita also. Arjuna will become bewildered. In chapter 2, we heard how Arjuna became bewildered in chapter 1 and chapter 2, right? He saw all his kinsmen, and then he surrenders to the Supreme Lord. So here also he surrenders. Remember the first prayer, ultimate shelter, Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dayamananam Appavargosi Samsrite. He takes ultimate shelter. Then he offers prayers that is transcendental. So in this way, he is also taking shelter of the Lord. So we see a lot of similarity with Srimad Bhagavad Gita as well. So we stop here, and then we will continue with Krishna's prayers in the Krishna's response in the next session. But I will just end with this purport here. So Prabhupada says, anything that is presented before God should be done after due presentation of respectful prayers. So there is an etiquette on how we should pray to the Lord. So this is something we should learn. So before we pray, we don't just go to the Lord and say, oh God, give me this, give me that, give me that, give me this. So that's not the right way. A devotee will first approach the Lord and he will offer some beautiful, nice prayers. So that's why it's worthwhile to memorize some nice prayers. We don't create our own prayers because we are not exalted devotees. In fact, when we repeat the prayers of other exalted devotees, then Krishna becomes greatly pleased. So therefore, we try to follow what other devotees say. And in this way, we become purified and we also please the Supreme Lord. So these are some nice prayers which we can memorize and we can learn to recite. Whenever we see the deity, whenever we offer prayers to the deity, we can offer this kind of prayers, like Brahma Samhita and all that. So this is the way, the etiquette. After due presentation of respectful prayers, then we petition the Lord. Oh, please help me in my devotional service, something like that. Sri Arjuna, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing this method of general information, this etiquette. So even though he is such a great devotee, he is Prema Bhakta, he is, Sakya Ras, yet he is offering prayers to the Lord following this etiquette. So this is what the Acharyas also explained. We should learn this etiquette. We will talk more about the etiquette of prayers later when we go to Kunti's prayers later in the later chapters. Okay, so we will stop here. Let us recite Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for listening to this narration. If there are any questions or doubts, happy to answer. Okay, no questions? Sure, so no questions, then never mind. So that means hopefully the subject matter was clear. If you do think of any, then always feel free to ask me or post it in the in the chat or in the WhatsApp. So then we will meet again in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully we can also read Srimad Bhagavatam. The chapters, the verses are very nice and nice purports by Srila Prabhupada also. So with that, we'd like to end. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you
Prabhu.
so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.